All right, here we go, ladies and gentlemen. The third and final game here between MorroW and DeMusliM. This time we are taking a look at this game on Shattered Temple. We can see right now in the 12 o'clock position, we do have MorroW spawning as our red Zerg player, and down here in the 6 o'clock is DeMusliM as the purple Terran. So yes, this is game number 3 in the best of 3 series. And right now we are, of course, tied up 1-1. How else could we be at a game number 3? And we did see, unfortunately, DeMusliM going for the same style of play that he did in the first game, last game, and unfortunately during his first push with those Hellions and Marines, he didn't do pretty much any economic damage at all to MorroW. Aside from forcing him to build units instead of drones, he wasn't able to hit the drone count much at all. Because of that, he was able to fend it off, and then MorroW was able to defend and actually mop up the counter, the secondary push from DeMusliM, and that's actually what just forced DeMusliM to call the GG. Something else big from last game to realize as well is that DeMusliM pushed out without siege tanks and without siege tech, and lacking those things, it makes it much harder for your bio to actually deal with those speedlings and banelings, and that's exactly what we saw that game. Something else I just want to mention one more time before we get into the action of this game. Again, I do realize that the strategy content that was slated for Friday and Saturday that's on the weekly schedule didn't end up getting posted once more. There's just a ton of behind-the-scenes things coming up. I've got some really exciting, really big things basically unrolling within the next few weeks to a month prior to the Diablo 3 beta's release. So just working on a lot of stuff. Wasn't able to come out that content, but again, starting this Monday, do expect that weekly schedule will stay consistent, and I'm going to be making sure that I come out with that content on the regular basis, and you'll know exactly what to expect. We can see right now MorroW moving straight across the map, right into that main base of DeMusliM. He will be scouting around, maybe doing a little bit of harassment as well with this drone, possibly even going for a gas steal. Who knows? Back over here inside of his main base, we can see MorroW, in fact, deciding to go for that very quick expansion and then following it up with a pool. But look at the timing on this pool. Much later than you may typically expect, not dropping it until, in fact, 17. So working a little bit harder on that drone count before dropping that pool, trying to get a little bit of a stronger economy. And let's see if that actually works in his favor or not, because that could be a little bit dangerous, especially if we see any type of early aggression from DeMusliM. Now, obviously, at this point, because he does have the drone inside the main base, MorroW's probably along the lines of thinking, well, I didn't see a 2 racks, so I'll hold off on my pool, not too concerned. Now, right now, DeMusliM can see the timing, realizing, that pool is a little bit later than normal, and there is no extractor just getting dropped right now. So I mean, this really is a pretty good opportunity for DeMusliM to push out and do at least a little bit of damage. Looks like we are going to be seeing that same opening though that we've seen him do every game. We can see a reactor getting placed on the barracks, and the factory should be coming sometime soon here as well, but no, never mind. First dropping that quick expansion, then the factory will be following suit after that, probably getting a couple of waves of Marines here before he actually moves into that position. Back over here inside of the main base of MorroW, again, the extractor finally up, just now transferring some drones over to get that saturated. Metabolic boost still going to be about a minute or so away from now. Overlords heading across the map, not too concerned about Vikings at this point in the game yet, obviously. This Overlord should actually spot this expansion. He shouldn't be too scared to actually push on in, because even if he does come in engagement with some Marines, he should have enough time to pull on back. So let's see if he just waits to spot the mineral line, or if he decides to try to spot in and check that expansion a little bit earlier. However, I guess he doesn't really have to. He does have these Zerglings moving across the map, so he could, of course, try to check the expansion with that. But at this point, it does look like DeMusliM has enough Marines to actually fend off any Zerglings that may try to push on into the base over here. Back over here for MorroW, just droning up at this point. Metabolic boost has just started right now. Will he pull guys off the gas? No, he will be in fact keeping guys on the gas, using his next turn Vespian to get that layer tech once the time does come. Zergling able to sneak right on into the main, and will be spotting down that reactor factory. So now he knows 100% certain with that Zergling scout there are going to be some Hellions very, very soon. So let me make sure that I'm prepared for it. Roach Warren will be the response from MorroW, and this is something we haven't seen him do yet in order to deal with this. We've seen pretty much just Queens, Speedlings, and Spine Crawlers to defend against this Hellion aggression, but deciding to go with some Roaches this game. And that, of course, pretty much hard counters that Hellion unit. Hellions do 0 damage, literally. I mean, it's absurd how little damage Hellions do to Roaches. The big advantage, of course, going to the Hellion in the speed department, so the Hellions are able to actually outmaneuver those Roaches. But trying to push on in the resource line definitely becomes difficult. However, right now, with these unupgraded Zerglings, those Hellions can do a bit of damage, and I think they're going to take this opportunity to do such. Look at that roasting going down. So many Zerglings getting lost here from MorroW, and absolutely nothing that he can do to respond to it. We have 5 roaches coming into play, but these Hellions still up in the main will be shooed away by that queen. But once those Marines engage, the queen can actually will actually be forced to push back. But no, looks like we are seeing DeMusliM pull back at this point. Again, exact same opening from DeMusliM. We can see there's the medevac picking up the Marines. Does have some continued Hellions coming through as well, so we will be seeing another drop in the main, but this time there will be some roaches to try to fend this off. So let's see how MorroW is able to handle it. Again, I'm concerned about the lack of creep connecting these two bases, especially with that medevac in play. He could just pick up his units and head out of there. Those roaches so very slow. Bane the Nest coming out, but this is not looking that good for DeMusliM. Again, with the speed of these Hellions, he's of course worried about this roach counterattack. Maybe if we get some bunkers up. There we go, 2 bunkers being placed in the main. If he is forced to, all he has to do is lift off that orbital, and he still does have this great opportunity inside of the main of MorroW to do a bit of damage. So here we go. We will be seeing 2 attacks taking place at once. Roaches moving into the expansion at the same time. We do have those Marines being lifted off here in the main. Hellions pushing right on in the econ, and this is going to be a lot of damage. Roaches still not doing anything. There we go, finally trying to engage, pushing up. Are they going to get here in time and snipe down those or not? Hellions and Marines dropping in the expansion here of MorroW, killing off almost all of the workers. Roaches doing what they can, dropping down and leaving a wide opening here right into DeMusliM's base, so the Zerglings will be able to run on in. But at the same time, again, yes, Hellions up here in the main. We do have 1 Baneling trying to defend, and this is a problem right now. MorroW does not have enough to defend against this, but again, same time, the Zerglings and roaches inside of the main of DeMusliM, and what is going to happen? I'm a little bit concerned, in all honesty, for our buddy MorroW, because really all at this point DeMusliM has to do is lift those things off, and he is all set. These drones do not stand a chance at all. We've got a couple more Zerglings, but no roaches coming on through. Baneling's trying to engage, able to get down 2 Hellions. Very nice there. 1 more Baneling trying to do what he can for damage. Roaches, but that Banshee's in play, so DeMusliM with that Banshee switch right away will be able to kill off everything else that MorroW has. We are seeing these units getting mopped up and actually lifted off right now. All those Marines still alive. Banshee will slowly be able to whittle down all of these forces here of MorroW. And at the same time, with lifting up and dropping off, DeMusliM is able to do a ton of damage here. Now, we are seeing a couple of Banelings come out from MorroW, kind of a last-ditch effort to try to deal with these Marines. Still doing as much damage as he can. Really no reason to not stay in here and do all this damage, because he knows he's going to be losing things. But look at this, Command Center being lifted off, will be pushed off into that 3rd that is protected by those rocks, and the Marines avoiding those Banelings. Very nice. They haven't lost any yet. There's just 1 Baneling left. MorroW trying to mine here at this expansion, is pushing back with a couple of the Zerglings. All the units here from MorroW have been mopped up or have retreated from DeMusliM's base. And again, I expect that expansion to push on over here, but here comes that continued dropping right now, killing off all of the workers, and DeMusliM looks like he has won this game. MorroW not standing a chance and just calling the GG. DeMusliM, for the 3rd game in a row, opened up with that medevac, Marine, Hellion, drop, harass, and aggression. This time, however, MorroW decided to open up with some roaches, allowing him to deal with those Marines and Hellions, and actually ended up pushing out with a counterattack. DeMusliM dropped in the main, and all he had to use was some Marine and medevac micro to stay away from those speedlings and keep them alive as long as possible without that stim pack. At the exact same time, though, MorroW's roaches were knocking at that front door, able to drop this reactor, which allowed his roaches and speedlings to pull right into the main of DeMusliM. With no more roaches in his main, MorroW was very susceptible to these Hellions and Marines, and there's pretty much nothing he could do against this aggression. At that point, relying on his counterattack, but unfortunately, even with all these roaches and speedlings inside of the main, they were no match for the Banshee that was coming out of the starport. Once this came into play, there's pretty much nothing that MorroW could really do, especially since DeMusliM had that opportunity to just lift up his buildings. The Banshee was able to mop up the rest of these speedlings and roaches, and then the Hellion and Marine drop inside of the main of MorroW, then just wiped off the rest of MorroW's units and forced the GG. So that about does it for this series between DeMusliM and MorroW. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. It was a pretty fun game to commentate. It was a pretty fun series to commentate. As always, guys, if you like the content, please go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching. Keep watching and keep owning.